How y'all doing? So for those in the back, my name is Del Spoonmore. I'm from Seed to Spoon. I'm going to talk more about this in a little bit, but really I'm going to talk about why I started gardening, how I started gardening, how much this group helped me learn how to garden. I actually went through the program briefly a couple years ago. And basically everything I learned from that, and then everything we learned that we put into our app. So this is our backyard here. So this is kind of the story of this. This is 3 years ago, we started gardening. I get obsessed about things. And this changed my life. And I'll talk more all about that as we go, but that's basically what this is. But this is where my story starts. And this is my first daughter, Brooklyn, in 2008. And I was a much different person back then. I was 340 pounds. Every meal was from fast food, sometimes multiple places. You know, you want to pick up a burger and a pizza, you know, you can't decide, so you just get both, you know, and then, hey, there's some ice cream too now, you know, like that was how I lived, and that's how I dealt with all of the anxiety and depression that I had that I didn't know that I had at the time. So when she was born, it was this moment where, I don't know, it was just this moment where I had this realization that if I wanted to be the kind of dad that I needed to be, that I wanted to be, I had to change. So I started on the Subway diet. Looking back on it, I didn't do the right thing back then, but it worked. I mean, I was counting calories only. I had spreadsheets for everything in my life. I started running obsessively. I started marathon training. I had spreadsheets for all of that. I logged what songs I listened to during every playlist that calculated beats per minute, and I had like, this is what I do with everything in my life. For the first time, it's helping other people now with the app, at least. Before, this was all just stuff I had for my own projects. So anyway, you know, I got obsessed with marathon training. I ended up losing 120 pounds in 9 months. I went on the Rachael show. I was featured for weight loss. And I let this become a bad thing. I let this, you know, like I forgot why I started doing all this to begin with. And it was because I wanted to be a better dad. Well, I was marathon training for 4 hours every Saturday. And then on the couch for every Saturday afternoon. You know, and I wasn't, you know, I wasn't doing any of the stuff I wanted to do. You know, like I lost sight of things. And I let this kind of ego get to my head. I mean, you know, and anyway, as things tend to work, as I've learned in life, God cuts you down when that happens. And I went through this really rough period, about 1.5 years where I went through a divorce, and I was just at lowest of lows. I mean, don't even remember a lot of it, didn't care about anything, only was living because I had kids. That was it. And luckily, God sent me her. And I met her in January of 2013, and she changed my life almost instantly. I mean, the way that she looks at people, the way she talks to people, it's contagious, and it makes you want to be a better person. And she was the first person in my life that recognized that I had anxiety and depression. Before then, it was just this beast that controlled me that I wasn't willing to admit I had, and that no one else, I was clever enough to outsmart everyone else, or at least I thought I was. You know, I would make everything that happened someone else's fault. You know, like I was just very good at that. And she was the first person in my life that said, no, like something changed in you just now. What happened? And that is what led us to this book called The Depression Cure, that talked about how all of this stuff that just blew up in my life randomly could be controlled or helped through water, you know, food, exercise, sleep. Mindfulness is the biggest out of all of them, in my opinion. Sunlight and social activity, these things here. So in April 2015, when you saw the before picture, that's when I found this book and when I committed myself to this, you know, this stuff. And that's when the story of our garden began. I'm a nerd. I had to. I got more puns, just get ready. So this is when we started. We started with the Square Foot Gardening book. I loved the idea in the beginning, you know, engineering background, everything had a pattern, everything, you know, like things I could memorize. It was great. So I started obsessively memorizing the book. We started building. These were our first I tried to just grow a little bit of each, you know, like the stuff that we bought a lot of from the store, I started with that. And I made so many mistakes. I mean, look at my tomatoes and these little baby pots here, and I thought they were going to survive. I mean, those things lasted about 2 weeks before they were dead, you know, but it's okay, because I learned a lot from it. And this Bermuda grass all around the beds, like, oh, boy, was I going to find out, you know, like, but this is where we started. And I still adhere to probably 80–90% of the stuff in square foot gardening. There's things I've deviated from, because we're in Oklahoma, and that book was written in the north. So you've got to adjust for that. But I think it's a great way to get started. And my app guides people into starting with this kind of as a base. And I'll talk about some other ways that it's different too. If I forget, remind me later. I do that a lot where I say I'm going to talk about something that I don't. One of our early innovative gardening watering methods, automated watering system. So this is our first compost bin, the Square Foot Gardening book. If you're not familiar with the concept, basically it's you take a box, you build it, you divide it into the squares you saw, and then compost is a huge part of it. It's 1/3 of the mix that you fill with those beds. So we started a compost bin. She thought it was so awesome the first time they dumped the compost in the back of the truck, and we're like, that was her moment where we're like, we're farmers now. Like, it's cool. And then she and I can unload a whole truckload of wood chips, not compost. Compost is rough, but wood chips in 45 minutes. Like she and I, we're fast, like the two of us. But we started with that. I started making our own compost, using wood chips, coffee grounds, cottonseed husk, we started a worm bin for the kitchen scraps and for things like that. So we started doing all that kind of thing, and this was the end of our first year. So you can see, I'm glad I don't know why I took these pictures, but I'm glad I did because I have a before picture. Like that's kind of how things looked over on the side of the yard. And now, so this is some of the mistakes that we made the first year. I want to talk about some of these. Like these are peas and carrots in a checkered pattern. Because I was following the Square Foot Gardening companion planting method. And I thought, well, what's a better way to companion than to checker? Like, I'll show them, Well, then I try and trellis these things, and I've got teepees everywhere, So these are the kind of things I had to learn from. I learned to grow peas in a row along a trellis on the north side of a bed so that it grows up that, or on the east side of a bed so that the west side of a bed so that it shades a bed in the afternoon. I started to learn how things work a little bit better. And I started to be tired, well, from the beginning I was tired of Bermuda, but I was really tired of Bermuda. So that leads us into the next year. I told you there'd be more fun. So this was the time that our daughter Mary was born. So I had 2 children before that, and this was Mary, our third. And she immediately informed us within minutes of her birth that we had to get a lot more food. Because she loved eating, so we got to work. This was the week she was born. We were out there building more. And we started laying cardboard in our entire backyard because I was tired of Bermuda. The wheat cloth, does not work at all. And so I just threw a blitzkrieg of cardboard and wood chips at the problem, and started covering my entire backyard with cardboard and then wood chips I got from the Norman Compost Facility. If you haven't been down there, go see James. He's awesome. I go and see him every week and get a truckload of wood chips. That's my exercise. Every week, I just go do that. And it's like a fresh layer of mulch makes everything. It's like a fresh coat of paint on the garden. So it makes everything look nice, So we started. You can see here we kind of started. And the initial agreement that I had with my wife was that I could have along the fence. That was the original stipulated area. But the problem with this is that, as you can see, there's shadow. And when I first built these gardens, these were full sun. But then fall hits, and uh-oh, I don't have any more sun, So I started building these raised beds on legs, thinking that would help. Well, then those get really hot, and then they get really cold. So I had to, obviously, go out this way, So I started building out that way, and we started just covering everywhere with cardboard and then the wood chips. You can kind of see we kept going. And then this happened. So I had a really bad day at work. And I just happened, there's this post on Craigslist, a bunch of really big TV boxes, who wants them? And I was like, okay. So I go and I get them, and then in the back of my truck, and I'm like, what now? So I just start laying them out, and then I had a bunch of wood chips kind of sitting on the side too, and then my wife was gone for the day. So she came back and I was like, hey honey, look what I did. And she came out and she was like, it actually looks good. And I knew from that moment, this whole half of the yard was mine. I started plotting what I was going to do with it. So yeah, we kept building. Like these raised beds on legs that I mentioned, we built these. I really like having these on the east side of the house or on the east side of a fence now. They're really nice in the spring. The rabbits can't get up on them, you know. They're a nice height for us to pick from, so it's like greens, which are going to be done before it gets hot anyway. And then I was able to keep southern peas alive in them over the summer last year, and then kale and spinach stayed alive in them over the winter when I had one of those hoops over it. So anyway, I do like those for some things. They just can't be full sun if you want to grow something. And then this happened. So this is my grandfather, and he passed away around this time. And he had always been one of the most important people in my life. He taught me how to be everything, right? He taught me how to be a man. I grew up around him a lot, and I felt called to narrate his funeral, whatever that's called, you know. And I never felt more pressure in my life. In fact, I've never done any speaking before then. That's what gave me the confidence to do this today. I used to be so nervous before then, you know, like. And I spent the next week doing this. And this is where I put all that energy, you know, like that whole week. I came out there and I let him speak to me. And yeah, and this is when I really started to feel like the therapeutic effects. I mean, in the beginning, like the first time I tasted spinach out of the garden, that was a moment for me. Like where it was, oh my gosh, this tastes good. Like I knew spinach before that as something that came out of a can that Popeye endorsed, and I thought like that's all I knew about it. Or like when I did the Subway diet thing, like it was a filler on a sandwich to make me more full, but I didn't taste it ever. And then the first time I tasted spinach out of the garden, and the leaf is rough and it's like tough and it has texture to it and it has a sweetness to it and a crispness to it, and it was a moment where I realized that with that added nutrition came the added taste came the added nutrition. And I was starting to feel the added therapeutic effects just from being in the garden. It started to become the place I had to go to. When I was stressed out, I just had to go out there. And I started adjusting the way I worked. So I work in software development. I've spent the majority of my career indoors staring at computers all day. That's how I got so big in the beginning, right? I've adjusted that over the past 8 years, but now I've really adopted a lifestyle of spend an hour or 2 hours at the computer and then go out here for 30 minutes to an hour and turn the compost, do something, and then come back inside. And I alternate that all throughout the day. And I don't have a lunch, I don't have commute time, I work from home for the most part. So this is how I spend my day. And that shift changed my life. Whereas before, if I got stuck on a problem with the computer, and if I didn't figure it out by, you know, it was time to go to bed, you did not want to be around me that night, because I was cranky, and I was frustrated, and I was lost in that world. You know, I could knock it out of it. And this gives me a refuge from that, because if I can't figure out a problem, I put the problem away, and I go outside and do something using the other part of my brain, because what happens every time is the answer comes to you. And then I run back inside, and I trust that process. And trusting that process gives me freedom from, I used to feel this sense of I had to stay in the problem, or if I set away, I won't be able to come back and figure it out. Well, now, like, going away is good, you know, and it helped me figure it out. So it's changed my life, and I don't get stressed about my job anymore. I look forward to problem solving. This is just another shot at it. I mean, this is where the mindfulness really comes in, and I talk about this is what helps me live that mindful lifestyle, where when I do get caught up in the issues of the world, or I worry about the past or about the future, it's really easy to bring myself back to, oh, that pea just sprouted. You know, like, and then I'm lost in the world of now, and this reconnects me back to that constantly. Every day there's something new to get excited about, you know, like, that's what I love about all this. And that's when I started to realize all of that, and that's when this started to become something more than just me growing food in my backyard. It's really all it was before then. And I don't talk about this part since I get emotional, but I'm just going to roll with it and hope I don't. My grandfather, the one regret he told me at the end was he didn't do more to share what he learned, what God told him. You know, I feel that with me now. So like this is kind of explaining what led into everything that came next. You know, so This is where we were at the garden. I got to put this picture here in case I'm crying from talking about my grandpa. So we were having so much fun at this time. You know, like we were getting so much food out of the garden. I was living out there practically. Like I was a lot skinnier than I am now. You know, like it was, and we were, man, we were having so much fun. You know, we were really like having success for the first time. Like gardening wasn't scary anymore. It was becoming, we know what we're doing a little bit. You know. I think this was probably around the time that I went to the Cleveland County program for a little bit. I went to all the classes that were about growing food. I'm sorry, I'm obsessed about things, and all I care about is like the hot topic. So that's, you know, like, I'm sorry, Tracy. I don't see Tracy in here. I felt guilty about it because I was
still water today.
Okay, good. I was like, I felt guilty about it, but I was like, I really don't need to know about grass. Like, I'm trying to cover cardboard. That's what I need to know about grass. Like, sorry. I'm blaspheming in the temple that I learned that, I feel like. So anyway, we started innovating at this point too, because I figured out the growing food part a little bit, but I figured out what I didn't like. And watering was one of the things I didn't like. I really like watering in the spring. You know, like it's nice in the spring, and it's like, but come June and July, like I don't like doing it anymore. So I built this, I did a lot of scouring of YouTube, you know, just trying to find the best systems. And this was the cheapest system that I could build to get going, using materials I already had. Because I'm always scavenging Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace for like extra PVC and stuff. So I just have like stashes of stuff everywhere, you know, like, so I have PVC everywhere. So I was able to take this and then I cut it to the length of the bed and I drilled holes every 3 or 4 inches with a 1/64 drill bit, smallest drill bit you can find. If you see a smaller one, let me know and I'll go get it. Because the smaller you can get, the better. And then you connect that to a main arm that's solid. There's no holes drilled on this. And then this was the first version. Ignore all of that because this is what here's us put together. This was a great way to teach them counting by threes. And I let it mess on like 2 or 3. It's PVC pipe. Like it's cheap. Who cares, right? You know? Because they learned the hard way. Like they went through and did it. Well, it's close, but it's not the same. They had to redo it. You know, like oh, you know. So, but that's the thing I love about gardening too. Is it helps me teach kids practical things. You know, like counting by threes. Square foot gardening teaches them all sorts of things. Spacing. You know, patterns. They're learning. I mean, technically, they're learning geometry in a way through companion planting because they learn about how the sun works and shading and height differentials and all sorts of things. So. This is how it connects. So this is, you know, how I connect the hoses now. So this is just a piece that you can get at Home Depot or whatever for just a couple bucks, and it connects as a regular garden hose, and that connects to the PVC. And I have an Orbit automated timer that has 4 outlets on it right now, so I can have 4 of these independently controlled at a time, which for me is enough to keep up with, because generally I can handle watering unless it's seed starting, and I've got to keep them moist. That's when I'm drowning in too much watering. So I never have more than 4 beds at a time that I'm starting seeds on because I'm rotating through different seasons and crops and stuff. So those 4 beds I can have automated to where they're staying moist, you know. Like my lettuce right now I have on automation so that when it hits, like during the afternoon when it hits 90, I hit it with water like once every hour for like 5 minutes just to keep those roots cool, keep it from bolting. So I'm doing things like that with it, right? But it frees it up so that I can automate things like that. And then in the spring, like I'll back down. So once things are sprouted, you know, then I'll back the watering down to once a week. And then I'll just rotate those around so that I just have to move them from, like if I have 8 total beds and I have 4 outlets, I've grown 4 beds on Saturday, 4 beds on Sunday, I water on the weekend, I do it again next weekend. You know, that's a way you can, and it just made it to where it was a lot easier to keep up with watering and I was making fewer mistakes. Because I have a tendency to either underwater or over. I'm a very inconsistent person, and that applies to my watering too. Like sometimes I get lost in code and I forget a day goes by and I forget to water, and you know I'm inside where it's air conditioned. I don't realize it's 100 outside. Like because it changes in Oklahoma day to day. You know, like so. So anyway, this is a picture of it in action, so you can kind of see how it's running.
Cool.
The problem with this system is that you can only water 32 square feet at a time, not 33. 32. And you have to do this little like kink in the arm to get it to where the water pressure equalizes. A lot of interesting things with water. I took a physics course online so I could learn more about water pressure because this was so interesting to me. So, you know, this was the problem with this one, and as my garden started to grow, that wasn't scalable. So I've started to switch over now to the drip irrigation tubing with the emitters. It's more expensive. But if you have a large garden, it doesn't require as many zones. It's just a better solution if you're definitely going to be doing this. When I built that PVC system, we were kind of doing it. You know, we weren't like farmers yet, whatever we are. So this is another system we built. This is a rainwater collection system that I found on YouTube that I built. There's IBC totes that I got locally for 60 or 70 bucks. Connected them up to the rainwater, or up to the gutter, just with standard PVC. This system here is a filtration system of sorts. So the first 30 gallons that comes off the water pulls into here, and then as it builds up, there's a water bottle that floats and then caps this off, so that dirty water can't come over, so then all the clean water is diverted over again. You can also do a pantyhose filter here and here to do some extra filtration, but I'm just watering plants with it, so I don't really care. I only did this because I thought it was cool. Honestly, I probably didn't even have to do it, you know, I just thought it was cool. And there were small holes drilled at the bottom, so it slowly drains, so between rains it'll be ready for the next one. I've got another system, and I have a full guide. Like, so everything I talk about in this presentation, I probably have a video or a blog post on my website that goes into detail on it. So, and the app has a lot of this information too. We'll get into all of that. I have another one too. It's a 55-gallon barrel. I think I have a picture of it. Yes, I do, over here. So and it's hooked up now too, but I have a guide that shows it. So if you want to do a smaller system, those are really cheap. I mean, I see those free everywhere. I haven't had to pay for one of these in years, but when I first had to buy them, they're like 15 bucks. So make sure that on these type of systems, though, you check what was in it before. You guys know this, but check it, you know.
Great.
Yeah, like everything I get, it had like vinegar in it before or something like that, like, or syrup. Oftentimes it's syrup, but definitely no chemicals or anything like that. So another mistake we made the first year was I put everything full sun, because the Square Foot Gardening book glorified full sun. And then I learned that in Oklahoma, you need the shade too. They didn't have lettuce past like April, you know. And I was like, how does anyone ever grow lettuce? You know, like, lettuce is a fraud. And now, you know, we have this bed on the east side of our shed where we still have spinach. It looks great, and that's going to hold on for probably another month, you know, hopefully. We'll put shade cloth over it. So we started to understand the value of shade. And we started to build, well, I started to build gardens on every square inch property I had, basically.
That should be a new book.
Yeah.
Square inch.
Square inch gardening. So our first compost bin that we built was just these pallets that were zip tied together. The problem with that was the front of them had a small pallet that was broken in half, so it had a defined height. And when I needed to get to the bottom of the compost and get out of it, I was doing one of these things with a shovel. And my back was really hurting me at this point, so I wanted to be able to do one of these things with a shovel. Yeah. So I wanted to rebuild it. And I wanted to have, like, again, I saw a project on YouTube and I thought it was cool. That's really why I do anything. I just see something, I'm like, I want to do that. It's like Legos for adults for me. So we took these pallets, tore them all apart. That was a fun day. A Sawzall makes this really easy, by the way, if you ever have to tear apart pallets, and some music. And we had a lot of fun that day. We tore them all apart, and then we built these compost bins here out of it. So, and these slats are removable, so I can adjust the height. So as I'm filling them, I can have them, you know, half full until they're ready, and then I can keep adjusting them. And in between the two, there's not a picture, but in between the two, I have chicken wire so air can get through. On this one, I'm going to build a sifting system, like one of those ones built out of bicycle tires, you know, like a roll, and probably hook it up to like a washing machine motor so I can press a button and turn it. I don't know what I'm actually going to do. It's going to be one of those like, it's going to be one of those like just inspired days of like, I'm going to build something today. And
You have 3 daughters, just get 3 little bikes.
I know, like, well, it's great. Oh yeah, just have them pedal.
Yeah.
But I gotta pay them. Like that's the thing. Because I pay them for pest management. I pay them $1 for every squash bug, for every caterpillar. For squash bug egg sacks, they get 50 cents. So they'll make like $10 on me on a Saturday sometimes. And I gotta budget for that, you know. Like if I have them out there as a hamster wheel, like man, things are really gonna get out of it. And at one point it's a child labor and I'm going to jail. I mean. Slippery slope. So these are another thing that we changed. So those raised beds on legs, we wanted to have coverings for them, greenhouse covers. The first time that I built them, I had these domes attached to the bed, and trying to harvest was a pain because I had to unclip and pull it, and I ended up just never doing anything. So these are attached to 2x4 frames so they can be lifted up and harvested easily. I stole this idea from the 1 Yard Revolution YouTube channel. If you haven't heard of it or don't follow it, it's my favorite out of all the YouTube channels. If there's no other YouTube channel you watch on gardening, this guy right here. He is really good. He has a lot of great tips. He's very science-backed. He does a lot of science experiments. He's a nerd like me. He loves geeking out on things, and I've learned a lot from his channel. In fact, the weekend that I found his channel, I was sick. I think I got the flu. Remember when the flu was really bad a couple years ago? Like everyone got it. I had it during that time, and there was a weekend where I did nothing but watch his videos, and he has the same intro music and outro music on every video, and they're only 5 minutes long. So by like 5 hours into it, my wife was ready to kill me. She's like, "Hey, not take another minute of that song." Here's the frame of that system, so you can see more about it. It's basically just, and I have a full guide, on YouTube that shows how I built it, but it's just PVC pipe. These are end caps that I screw into the wood, and that's what holds it all together. And then from there, it's just a 10. So these are 2, 1/2 inch PVC pipe. These are 3/4 inch slips, and then 1/2 inch here. So this slides over, and then I screw it into the 1/2 inch switch, like drill screw in to hold it in place. And then that's all. And then I switch out between the plastic and the insect netting, depending on the season.
At the back, or do you
Yes, there's door hinges on the back. Just put door hinges on the back, and that's how we. And yeah, and then I switch between insect netting or plastic, or you can do both. You can do 2 layers of plastic if you want to do and this is going to give you like 1 zone up higher, basically. Meaning it's going to take your zone, 1 zone lower. Sorry. Whereas spinach and kale survives for me all winter anyway without being covered, but it's iffy on lettuce, it's iffy on beets and carrots sometimes, whereas under here, it works. It's also good health protection. Now once the plants get too big, then you're dealing with it's hard to fit it in there. It's good for insect protection, for beans, it really helped with my cutworm issues. I had all my beans last year covered because I had so many cutworms issues on beans the year before. And I hated putting the individual toothpicks. Have you ever had to do that on the beans? Yes. You put toothpicks next to each bean to keep. It's such a pain.
I did.
I didn't even have to do it. I had to hear my wife complain about doing it because I was out of town when we had to do it. But she spent 2 hours putting toothpicks next to beans, and I didn't have to do that again. So the insect netting really helps with that. It really helps with keeping things from bolting because you can put shade, protection over it. So my goal is to have all of my gardens have these over it by the end of the year, hopefully. So we'll see. And also, when there are the hailstorms coming, I can just go throw a blanket over this whole frame and put down bricks, and if the wind doesn't kick up too much, it'll hopefully help keep it down. Here's another picture with the insect netting, so you can see what that looks like. Another thing we did was we built an indoor seed starting system. The first year, I had bought all my plants from the nursery and transplanted them. Most plants actually I start from seed outside, but with tomatoes, peppers, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. We start all of those indoors. And then I do a lot of propagation also. The same energy that I used to put into collecting football cards, I now put into collecting herbs. And I'm friends with Bill Ferris at Prairie Wind, so now he has every herb. So I've gone down there, I've got 1 of each variety, and I do a lot of helping schools and communities get gardens going. And I always like to get them started with a little herb kit. So I'm tired of having to go ask Bill for herbs. So I want to have my own. So I do a lot of propagation indoors with this, things like that. A lot of experiments, just trying different things. My daughter had a 3rd grade cabbage growing program. Have you heard of this? They do Bonnie has a program to grow the largest cabbage, and they give all the kids a cabbage to bring home. Well, she got it home. We're all excited, and we get fish fertilizer on it. It's all set up. Well, our dog liked the fish fertilizer too, and ate the whole plant, roots and all. Literally, there's a divot, there's a golf shot taken out of it. It was so. The fastest way to get replacement seeds, and I called every nursery around the state. I went everywhere. I pulled every string I could try and pull, trying to get a replacement plant, but they were gone. So the fastest way I could get replacement seeds on Amazon was to order 1,000. So I have 1,000 raw seeds now. But anyway, we started from seed using this, and now no one else in the class even has one left because they didn't survive the freeze, and hers is like already. So it's a comeback. It was so cool because she did not give up on it. She was, you know, she's like, okay, well, let's get seeds now. And I was like, yeah, we are. I was devastated. I was like, I let her down. Like, this is the one thing I'm supposed to be able to do. So anyway, I have a guide on my website all about how we built this. We got it, we scrapped for all of it. Craigslist, Facebook, I do everything that way. These lights I got for about $12 each with the lights on Craigslist. There's a lot of businesses right now that are switching from this type of lighting to LED, so they're offloading a lot of this stuff right now. So there's just a lot of opportunity to get this stuff cheap. These things I see on the side of the road a lot, even these, you know, garage sales. So like, you can pay like $60 for one. They're not too expensive, you know. I started adopting these smart pots and started using these more. I'm a big fan of these. If you haven't heard of them, they're fabric raised beds. They're made here in Oklahoma City. I was really skeptical about them the first I saw them because I thought for sure they would dry up too fast in the summer and get way too hot. I do have to water them about once, like one earlier day than the other beds, but I feel like it's worth it because the plants do better. And I've talked to them a lot, like the engineering team there and stuff, and I'm a big believer in this idea that the plant's getting air through the side in addition to just the top. Because normally in containers, when roots hit the side, they start circling, they're useless. So on the ground, you know, they can't get air from the sides. Well, these plants get air from the sides and from the top. So it requires extra water to keep that process alive. But I've had plants where, I tested these for a year before I even told anyone about them, where I had plants that were side by side in the wooden raised bed and the smart pot. And peppers especially really thrived, because they really like those kind of conditions in the smart pot.
Did you feel that the being black was kind of hot? Because I have those for this year. And I wondered if the black would absorb, you know, sun.
I thought the same thing. I have a purple one, and I don't notice any difference in drying out. I also tried burying one, because like I said, I did a lot of experiments on these. So I have one that's completely buried, and it doesn't perform any better than the ones. Now, I don't have to water as often, but the plants just perform like raised bed ones. I don't see the difference in the quality. So I did a lot of testing on the smart pots before I started telling people about them. So we started doing this, and now I think I have 14 total. They're big bag beds in my backyard, kind of spread around everywhere. I really like them because, you know, rabbits have a hard time jumping into them too, so it helps with pest prevention on that. This is a really easy way, and this is around the time that I'm starting to try and get other people to start growing food. And I'm sure y'all understand this more than anyone, like that conversation of like, you should start growing food. Well, I have to like get a saw or like buy, you know, like that keeps them from ever doing anything. But this is, you can jump in with, okay, well, spend $30 on Amazon, and then go to the Walmart or whatever, buy some potting soil, or here you can make it yourself. I have a guide for how to make it yourself and save some money, and then use this app to start planting. Like that is a pretty easy conversation for me to have with people, and it's just a lot easier to get people to jump into gardening. So. And
I got my pots at Ellison.
Oh, they have them there too? Yes, awesome. And they're actually, so I want to clarify, I started using them before they became a sponsor of our app. So they are a sponsor of our app. I'm going to start selling their products through my app soon. But I was using them for a year and a half before I even had a conversation with them. It was just one of those things that organically happened. They reached out to me and said, hey, we see you're using our product a lot. And I said, well, hey, I'd love to give out a lot of your products. So I usually have a lot of like stuff from them that I can give out when we go to events, like when kids come up and they're super excited about it, I can give them a smart pot. Like it's just really cool for that. So I don't make any money from them at all. They don't pay me whatsoever. If I start selling their products through the app, I'll get a royalty of each purchase, and I get 8% of each purchase now through Amazon. Sorry, I just speak frankly. I don't like to feel like I'm tricking anyone.
How do they last?
What's that?
How long do they last?
Mine are 2.5 years old now, and they look great. I've heard people have had them up to 8 to 10 years, and they look fine.
I've had some. Do you ever sterilize them or anything? I mean, refresh the soil, and do you have to clean them? And
I don't, because I grow year round. So, but I'm always adding. I treat them like a raised bed, so I'm always adding compost in. Now, when I first get it established, I give it a little extra love. I give it some worm castings. I give it some more compost. Like, I grow a cover crop in there first to get some soil life going. So I use some inoculants, you know, because it doesn't have any life in there. So I'm trying to inject life, and it can't get life necessarily from around. So it's kind of like a little ecosystem there. So typically I'll start it off with a cover crop, and then I'll start growing into it after that, if I have time. I mean, I just built a bunch, and I just had to start. But, you know, typically that's what I like to do. Yes, ma'am?
Does everything stay contained so that you can move it for shade, light?
Oh, the small ones?
They're not too heavy. I can move them. I can
the
drag them.
roots.
Not mine, I can't.
They don't grow
Straight
through.
through.
So the roots will like have little danglers that come down, but that doesn't mean you can't move them. But the weight might make it where you can't move them. They get really heavy. All of mine are really big. Like it takes me like 5 people to move them. But the smaller ones, yeah, I have some. So I have like potatoes, for example, that I have out in full sun most of the time. But when it gets really, really hot, I'll give them some shade in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Or same with the tomato. Now the trellising is difficult when it comes to the tomato, but lettuce. I have lettuce in a smart pot that has been out in full sun in the spring, and now it's in full shade. You know, I'm trying to let it hang on
Have
as
you
long
thought
as I can.
about planting them on, you know, those garden little trolleys?
Yeah, what I'm thinking
I
of.
have, you know, it's a garden.
Wheels.
Oh yeah, you could absolutely do that. Yeah, on like a
That's because
Find
I'm
Burn
it
a
out,
card?
put 'em in
Yeah.
them around.
in the front, my front patio.
Yeah.
And I thought that I could move them in and out of the heat.
Yeah, I kind of like, so like I view the garden as my opportunity to get some exercise, you know? So I kind of like the like, yeah, like that's just, and then watering, I have watering cans everywhere because I kind of view that as like, so, but I'm also like, you know, like, I understand everyone's different. So like, but you could totally do that too, like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
So,
So, sorry, I put down the clicker. Where did I even put it? In my pocket. This is my life in a nutshell. I lost something during a presentation on stage. How does that happen? Okay.
About your stakes that you've got back in there, do they
Yeah.
blow away in the heavy winds like we're having now?
Well, these bamboo ones go down pretty far. And what I actually did on these smart pots is I have this broken shovel that just has a point at the end now, right? So I took that and I poke it really hard down to make a hole in the smart pot, and then I hammer that down into the ground. So I've got T-posts and stuff. So you may not want to do that if you want to move around and stuff, or you know. But for me, they're not going anywhere. If they do it somewhere else on mulch, so it's not a big deal.
So you've actually got a hole in the bottom of your pot there?
This one does, yeah. I didn't do it in all of them, but because the ones that have tomatoes in or peppers in, you don't necessarily have. Something else I've done is I've started being more strategic about putting like a pepper like on the side here, and then putting a T-post right next to it, next to the smart pot. Now it's not a portable smart pot, and the plant's tied to something else, but still.
Yeah.
That's pepper there. This is the pepper I was telling you about that exploded on me. Yeah. I know. Like, it was amazing. I was like, look at this pepper. And now I have,
It's like a lot.
in fact, I'd be willing, if you guys want to do a tour of my garden sometime, we could do that. Yeah, we can totally do that, yeah. Except for that.
there you go,
Careful with me, I'll stay today if you'll let me. That's how I operate. So this is, so we added some more stuff. This is Roger. When we first started gardening, I was bringing in horse manure for compost. And I ended up infecting my entire garden with immunopyrrolid because of the horse manure was contaminated. So I switched away from I don't bring in any horse or animal byproducts from the outside, only animals that I take care of myself. And I wanted a rabbit. He's the most efficient poop maker I could find. He's a Flemish giant, and he gets up to 20 pounds. So the largest rabbit I could find. So this is Roger. We're getting Jessica soon.
Yeah. Be careful with that.
I know, you might be seeing a rabbit page in the app soon. Order a rabbit.
Your wife looks like Amy Schumer.
I haven't heard that at all. I guess that makes she's kind of nice.
Yeah.
I hope y'all still like her anyway, though. So this is my son Junior. So he was born in November of 2016, and if y'all remember, November of 2016 was the election. So I was waiting in line to vote, and I was with Mary, who's seen the 2-year-old, you know, and she there were a bunch of chairs set up around, and she was playing around the chairs, and she made friends while we were there. And I was in a really bad mood that day, and I was going to be in a bad mood no matter who won. I didn't vote for any of them. I didn't want to be there. I was just like, what are we doing? You know, and anyway, she made friends with a couple people. And the first person she made friends with helps with the community garden at the Baptist Children's Home. And their property's right outside my house. And I've overlooked this property since I started the garden, thinking they have all this land, they need to do something with it, you know? And I tried to reach out to them, but I was too much like, you have too much land, you need to do something with about it. And like, it just didn't go well. And anyway, I meet the person in charge of that when you go in to vote. Well, in 5 minutes, they've invited me to come run their garden. So like, that's how I got hooked up with that. Now I run their community garden now. The next person I meet in line is an elderly couple that wants to grow food and has tried and has had any success. They're not from Oklahoma. Like, what is this? How do we do this here, right? And I felt like in that moment, it was God asking me, if you're so worried about the world, what are you doing to fix it? And that was the moment from seed to spoon, and all this stuff was born. And it was, I had, you know, like he was just born, you know, so I had, every kid that I have, I worry a little bit more about the world, I feel like. And I had all of that with me, you know, and that's what led us into this. So I promise you the puns. I warned you about this. So I came home from voting, and I started frantically coding, or not coding really. I started frantically building our website, just telling the story of how we convert our backyard. Because by then, a lot of people were coming to me to ask. You know, all my friends on Facebook that wanted to start growing food, like I was the person they came to. There was a lot of individual conversations. I like efficiency. I wanted to write one blog post and then send them links. That's really like kind of what this started as, right? And I wanted to just tell people how we did it and just share cool stuff I learned on the way. Maybe shoot some videos, but I felt pretty silly about doing that, and I still do. Like I'm out there in the garden, like shooting videos like this, and I just feel so silly. You know? But anyway, that's what it started as, and we started with the Facebook page, and then, you know, like in all the different social media stuff, and we started just showing people how to grow food. And we, you know, this is my wife and family here, by the way. I think I showed it earlier, didn't I?
No.
Okay.
I've seen it all.
Cool. Here's all of them.
Yeah.
And we started just like basically this presentation I gave, you know, the written form of it. That's how I wrote this presentation. Was by writing it on the website back then. So I started just kind of telling how we you know did things, and I started talking about this because anxiety and depression is what led me to do this in the first place. And there's this whole generation of people coming up that are growing up in this digital world, and they need to understand that there's a balance in life that you have to have, and that you can go crazy. I've done it. I've gone crazy by staring at a computer too much. For the first 10 years of my career, that's all I did. 60-hour days, you know, like just, and I try and. You know, I try and tell this side of it now too, and it's really just, you know, what it started. And we also wanted to. I did a lot of, like, I started doing the YouTube video thing. I started basically showing the garden. A lot of people had interest in that, so I started to shoot like a tour of our garden, or I would show, like, if I ran into a problem, I would shoot a video and say, here's the problem I had, here's how I solved it, things like that. I started doing these kids gardening festivals. So this was our first one that we did at Markham's Nursery. We've done them now at Prairie Wind, and we're going to be doing some stuff with the Mary Garden. We're doing stuff all over with this type of thing now. We go to schools a lot and do this type of thing. But the basic idea is we have different gardening activities set up. My favorites are Smell Like a Butterfly, which is we have a tomato or something like that we put in the middle of the table. And then we put around that tomato basil, oregano, and rosemary and sage, all these companion plants. And then the kids have to close their eyes and then find the tomato with their nose. And it teaches them how insects find things and why companion planting works. And then, so we do that. We do worm races, which is really fun. You put two worms in the middle of a circle. The first one out wins. So they're like cheering on their worm, and you can only you can tap them with their pinky to encourage them, because we had a smash worm incident. Pinky only. So anyway, we just, you know, I wanted to, and the purpose of this was, I sometimes think about how different my life would have been if I would have grown up around this. And instead of having any regret about that, I try and do something to change someone else's life now. So I want kids to be exposed to this stuff in the way that excites them. And I don't know how they're learning it in school, but I feel like I have some ideas on how I get excited about it. So this is my way of, in the past I spent a lot of time worrying about the world and complaining about the world, and now I try and every time I have that complaint, I still have those like, but then I put that into, okay, well, what can I do? Like, what can I do actionable with this? And that's what drives me to do all the stuff that that I'm doing. So we did these gardening events. Here's the worm races. So that brings us to now, basically. This is our backyard now. I mentioned the smart pots we have around. I need a more recent picture because I built a lot more stuff since then. This is 2 weeks ago. arches going over these, so now all these have arches. They're gonna have like pumpkins dropping down. This is all like a lot more smart pots there now. Yes?
What is the black round things? Are those like the bags?
Those are smart pots, yeah. These are the giant smart pots. They're 100 gallons.
You're like, oh, I
What's
put a
their
girl something.
diameter? Like 5 feet?
They're 5 feet.
Probably, yeah. Yeah. They're huge. They're
And do
huge.
they have a bottom?
With just the same fabric side, same
Okay.
fabric, yeah.
But there's a fabric bottom?
Mm-hmm. So they'll sit on a patio. A great use case for these too is if you have, I always see like patio tables, like outdoor patio tables on Craigslist for like 30 or 40 bucks. Take one of those and put this on top of it. Now you've got one. Now these are pretty heavy. I mean, if you need to get one that looks like it's built pretty well, probably. Like one of those glass ones with the metal frame, you know, like, please don't do that. You know, like buy a good table. But it's a way to get, you know, a garden up off the ground. I mean, these are just, they're really good. I mean, that's why I've switched to them, because I think that, I mean, these work great too. Don't get me wrong. Like, if these are great. But 90% of the people out there, the regular people out there, are not going to go do this. Like, that's just the truth of it, right? And we're not going to convince all those people to go do that. But we can convince them to, they're already buying stuff on Amazon anyway. So I just like, click this button, buy this, spend 30 minutes to fill this up, and then like, have their attention enough to do it. And then, once they taste something out of it, then we hook them. Because that's how y'all hooked me. Right? I mean, like, I didn't care about any of this stuff. I didn't care about bees or butterflies or any of this stuff that we all care about fundamentally now. Like, I didn't care about the environment or conservation or any of this stuff until I started doing all this, right? Well, that's how we get everyone else to care too, is to join in and be a part of the process. So, yes?
I noticed you don't have any, like, fruit trees.
They're on the other side of the yard. I have a bunch of like sewer and electrical underneath the ground here, and I have to be really careful. That's why I built up here. Because I've technically got an easement here, so the city can come in anytime they want and dig that up. But right now, it's not a big deal, because I've just got smart pots. Okay, well, let me just move my smart pot, you know, like, and then the easement runs right here, and then along that back row. So on the other side of the yard, I've got fruit trees and everything along the side of the fence, and also that they're shaded in the afternoon on the other side of the yard. So yeah, trust me, I would love to have a whole forest here of everything, and hopefully one day we'll be able to get an acreage or something, and then I can just have all of that. Just let me know, seriously, we're looking. I mean, we're always looking. We just trying to find something we can afford.
You must have a lot of extra produce. What do you do with all that?
Yeah.
Make friends.
Hang it,
Where do you live?
zucchini.
Yeah, just try and get people to grow food. I mean, I give them food. I mean, you know, like it's fun for me. I mean, you know, like I'm just blessed. I get to, I consider myself very blessed. I get to work from home. I get to do what I love every day. I just got back from a Microsoft conference where I got to go be a nerd every day and learn from Microsoft people. Like, I'm living in a fantasy world, you know? Like, so I give it to friends. I give it to coworkers. I eat a lot, clearly. I mean, like, we have a lot of kids to feed. We're trying to get better at preserving. My wife has become a magician with cooking and with zucchini. Like, she found 27 ways to cook zucchini. We put them all on our website in the app. Yes?
The round bag bed thingies, if they're 5 feet across, is it hard to get in there to do whatever you need to do, weed or harvest or?
Not for me. Maybe for my kids it's a little bit harder. But they're up off the ground a little bit too. I mean, they're like 18 inches, so.
You can figure out, like, from your arm, you know, like, okay, you could probably reach 3 foot. You know.
So this is the children's home garden I mentioned earlier. I wanted to show it. My goal is to have this whole field back here become a field of pumpkins that we can then do like a donation thing at the end of the season where all the money goes back to the children's home. We're working on it. We got to prove ourselves with a small garden so they'll give me a whole field. So I understand. But, so yeah, this pretty much brings us to now. I want to show a couple more photos, and this is our app. So basically, everything up until the story until now went into kind of this part of it. And I've only got like 10 minutes. So I'll rush through this. Yes.
There's a flyer from Smart Pot. Anyway,
Awesome.
I brought in a flyer from there. They were up at, we saw them in Muriel Garden there.
Yeah, we were doing an event with them over there. Yeah.
Flyer to bring today, so it's somewhere floating around here.
Very cool. So this is the app that my wife and I started working on last year. And I've only got 10 minutes, so I don't want to take too much of your time, but I do want to tell the story of this. And basically, this was everything we took from everything we learned. I wanted to put into one place because I was carrying around all these books. I was emailing Tracy every other week of what is this bug. All of that information I wanted to put into an app because that's how I view the world. That's how I organize information, is in this type of format. So last year, my wife and I started working on this, and then we released our first version in January. So what it does now is it lets you choose whatever you want to grow. So if you can follow along, let me grab my iPad so I can show what I'm talking about here. And then hopefully, I'm not sure how everyone will be able to see it, but you'll be able to follow along if you want to download the app. It's completely free. It's in iOS and Android. So no matter what kind of phone you have, you should be able to find it. If you just search for From Seed to Spoon. So I'll pull it up here and kind of walk through. Can y'all see this okay?
Yeah.
Awesome, cool. All right, so once the app loads, you can choose whatever you want to grow. So I'm going to choose beans. And from here, it's going to give you exact dates for when you can plant based on your nearest weather station. Now this works nationally. This isn't using the Mesonet, this is using the NOAA service. There's a national service. You can actually tap on this button here and go in and see a list of the probabilities of frost dates from 10 to 90% for your area, and then choose which date you want to gamble on. I do the 10% one by default. That's what I keep mine on. And it was actually wrong this year. It was April 15th. We were late this year. So anyway, from then it shows you exact dates for, this is using the recommended information from the seed packet. So this is like the seed packet says 6 weeks before last frost date. We know the average last frost date. We can use that to calculate. We're going to be adding in a lot of other things like latest planting date for fall. All those other dates we're going to be adding in here that are calculated off that. Yes, ma'am?
Does it go from your region that you're living in?
Yes, it's using your nearest weather station. So anywhere in the United States,
Got it.
hopefully in the world at some point. I've got a lot of international people that are mad at me because it doesn't work for them. I don't know how to make that work internationally, but anywhere in the U.S. I tested it in Seattle when I was up there last
So
week,
you need
and
a
it works.
computer guy in another country?
Well, they just don't have these, like, you know.
Weather stations.
Yeah, they don't have weather stations. I know. Yeah, like.
They don't?
Well, they do in like Europe, like, but I have to like figure out the European network. And, like,
Yeah.
so anyway, it'll show you exactly how to grow, like everything in here. We took, you know, the information from 20 different books and from the class I learned, and like, all the information we put it into this app. As you scroll down, it tells you more information about it. We have harvesting and cooking information. We have an ad in here for Smart Pots, and that links to the Smart Pots page, which has all of their different sizes and recommended variety of vegetables for each size. And we get 8% of the purchases through the app. That's how we're hoping this can one day become our business, but we both have full-time jobs that we like. We're not, I mean, this isn't our, we're not looking to get rich overnight, that's not our thing. You can also, we have links to other things here. If I had an internet connection on this iPad, you would see blog posts right here for that vegetable. So anything on our website that's about that specific vegetable will get pulled into here and you'll see it, but I don't have internet, so you won't see that. At the top, there's a companions tab, and that shows you all the companion plants for that vegetable, as well as the bad tab shows you the non-companions, the stuff to avoid. Yeah, mostly things are in the same family or same pests, same diseases, things like that. There's a pest tab, which is everything I learned from Tracy in the visual form. Seriously, like, Tracy is the one I learned all this stuff from. I mean, like, that was one of those classes I definitely came to and paid attention to for sure. But you can go through and look at the larva and the adult of all the different pests that attack that vegetable. If you tap on it, it'll give you recommendations for it. We have all, we don't have any pesticides listed in here. BT is as close as we get to pesticides in the app. You know, ladybugs for aphids or spray them off. Trap for cucumber beetles. For squash bugs, I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of great advice. I pay my kids a quarter. Yeah. Really, prevention is the biggest thing. You know, dichrome radishes around them to help with prevention, companion planting. Yeah, I think that's illegal there. Y'all are going to get me in serious trouble. We have beneficials too, so you can see beneficial. Yes, ma'am?
Squash bugs I can live with is the vine borers that.
I have something to actually help with that. So there are these varieties of squash that come from Korea that have solid stems as opposed to hollow stems. So the vine borers aren't, they leave them alone.
Yeah, I've noticed they're not as much of an issue on like the butternut.
Yeah, well, these are summer squash varieties, though. They're not winter. So they have one that's called an avocado squash. I don't remember the Korean names, but I have a blog post that will be coming out on it really soon. But I have a video that talks about it. But There's if you search for avocado squash, that'll definitely find it. But just Korean summer squash, there's 3 different varieties that I grow, and one of them actually looks a lot like zucchini, but it has solid stems, so the vine borers aren't able to. But if you want to grow regular zucchini, something you can do for that is if you wrap the bottom of the stem where it goes into the soil, like 3 inches there, a bottom down, like 1 inch down, and then 2 inches up with aluminum foil. That makes it a lot harder for the adult to get in and lay their egg. And I've heard of that working as well. So I haven't, my squash plan and my philosophy is I plant squash everywhere and kind of spread it around, and way more than I think I need. That way when one gets infected, I can chop it, throw it in the fire, and laugh maniacally at them, and then hopefully then I can move on to the next. Like that's...
My philosophy has kind of been when it gets infected, I pull it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then try and contain it to that area, and not, if they do get in one area, smash it as fast as I can. Know that I'm not going to get, like just, yeah, squash bugs are, we're still working on that part. So we have a tab too, how to get started, that walks through how to get started gardening. So like takes you through like choosing the right location, how to do that, all the things, different steps that require. They all have their section here. We have a critters tab that has all the pests in the app in one place, so not just ones for a specific vegetable. Or same with the beneficials tab. And then this about tab is kind of the story of, kind of how we started. It has links to some of my favorite books. Like these are all the books I use to make the app basically. And then links to our favorite YouTube videos. I've got links to our videos in here in the app. If you go to this menu up here in the top left, there's a video section. I don't have internet connection again, so it's not pulling in. But if I did, you would see that. Links to our favorite products and all that. So this is the first version of the app. We have a lot of stuff. In fact, this week, while we're at Microsoft, I learned how to build a image recognition feature. We already have a working prototype where you can take a picture of a cucumber beetle and it'll say that's a cucumber beetle. So we've got to train it for all the other bugs now. But the hard part was just learning how to train it and learning how to do that. So we've got that done now, so we'll have that done soon. We're going to have a system where you can mark when you planted something, and then we'll know that date and we can guide you through the rest of it, including things like notifying you when to water based on how much has rained where you are. Things like that, helping you know when your harvest window opens, based on when you planted it and all that kind of thing. So that's what we're working on. I get up at 4 a.m. every day and I work on it until I have to go to my day job, and then I do that, and then it's a lot to keep up with. But
does your wife have some of her recipes in here?
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that, and I'm sorry. So my wife actually helped me make this app.
Okay.
She's a nurse, but she learned how to code a little bit. She learned how the data is formatted, and every single word in this app was typed by her, because if I were to type it, it wouldn't have sounded near as pretty. So like, she learned all of that. All of her recipes should, if you go to a vegetable in the app, should pull in. If they don't, let me know, because I just mistyped something. My 9 and my 7-year-old daughters had a hand in making every single image at the top of each vegetable. I taught them how to do it in this program called Adobe Spark Post, and then they went through and did it for all the rest of them. This has been so cool because I get to bring them into my world, and they get to build an app with me, and it's been so fun. So yeah, so Carrie's like a bona fide coder almost now, and she's like, she was checking in code changes while I was gone. Like I'm seeing code check-in changes from Carrie. She's the one that adds in all the new vegetables and stuff. So if there's anything that we need to add to the app, she's the one that adds stuff in, and we'll have, like, that's our date night, is we put the kids to bed, we get some wine, and she's like, so tell me about kohlrabi. What do you want to know? And then like I just start spouting out about stuff, and she dictates it. Like that's our date night. Like we're having a lot of fun right now. It's very cool. Yes, ma'am.
Can you download that app on a PC, or do you have
Soon. I'm going to have a web version soon that'll work on any computer or Kindle Fire or anything that has a browser.
But for right now, it's just a smartphone? Or
Right now it's only iOS, Android, so it's iPad or like in tablets too, but it's just those two. But I'll have a web version soon.
This summer, right?
If I can just get 4 hours, that's all I need. I just need 4 hours to work on it. So the next time I get a 4 hours without a kid needs to talk to me. I just don't do that right now.
Mention your event tomorrow.
Oh yes, thank you. Tomorrow I will be at Prairie Wind Nursery with Bill Ferris. We do a joint presentation where we talk about 10 different herbs. We're probably going to talk about more this time. We normally do 10 herbs, so we're going to do as long as Bill wants to talk. It starts at 9:30 to 12. So it's out at his nursery from 9:30 to 11. It's me and Bill talking about how to grow and cook with 10 different herbs, and Bill telling a lot of jokes. Bill's awesome if y'all don't know him. He's worth the price just to be around Bill. It was. I think it's $20, but you get a $10 credit to the nursery. So, yeah, and then I think that's probably the only event. And I do have events coming up like pretty much every week from here on out. We have them on our website. I'm recording this now because everything that I do, I try and record and put it up on our website. So all of our events, you know, you can go see the videos from other ones. They all sound different probably because I'm a crazy person to say a different thing every time. So it's me.
She's saying you have to register online for
Well, for bills, you don't need to register beforehand for bills, but it is a paid event for bills.
Okay.
Yeah, it's $20.
$20.
You can just show up $20, yeah.
I don't think so. I tried to do that.
You showed up at 20 and they turned it away?
I was out there the other day and I asked Colin about him then. So
Really? He said no?
And he said, no, it says go for a third party.
I kind of just want to call Bill right now. Like, hey, Bill, is that? But like,
You think a bunch of people showed up waving 20s?
Bill's not going to turn anyone away from the nursery. I mean, like, or from the class. I mean, like, it's my fault. If you come out there, it'll be like, just find me and I'll fix it. Okay?
What about the chef? There's a chef.
Please come tomorrow. Is all I'm saying. Please come tomorrow. Yes, everyone. 9:30. There's a chef right after Bill and I talked to the chef that's going to be demonstrating cooking with all these different things. So, well, for my part at least, I mean, you come at least.
Yeah, I'm just hanging around. Yeah, I think they yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you give me the title of your book on depression?
The Depression Cure. Yeah, and I've got cards up here too that have information about our YouTube and Facebook and our website and all that. If anyone wants them, I'll put. I don't know how the best way to do this. Okay.
Yeah, we'll pick them up.
Any more questions?
Yes, ma'am.
What do your neighbors think?
Well, so I'm a little autistic, and normally I'm very to myself, you know. So I don't really talk to people very much. They probably wonder why there's a truckload of wood chips coming in every week. And as I meet people and become friends, they like me because I shit a bunch of food their way. But yeah, I'm just not normally like, I'm in my own world most of the time. Like I come out of it for these events, and then I'm gonna go right back into my own world. Like I'm about to go start building some past image recognition stuff. Well, and then now like we're having tours more often, so like 30 Girl Scouts show up, and they're like, "What is going on?" Like, we've had the news crews come a couple times now, so they're like, "What is going on over there?"
Well, they're the police, so they figure it's okay.
Thank you very much.
Registration for the conference. So if you don't want to get online and rather do it this way, they're up here for you. Can't hear me? Copies of